Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be joined by Chartered Environmentalist Lara Young CEnv, Group Carbon Manager at Costain, and the 2021 Registrant Newcomer of the Year, as announced at the virtual CEnv Awards results event on the 4th of June. So can I start off by saying a huge congrats, Lara? And in the last week, we've gone out to the CEnv community asking questions for you. And I'm really happy to say we've received a number of questions back. So I'm just going to go through those questions now, if that's okay with you. So if I just start off by asking you to give your reaction to winning this award, can you sum up what it means to be named Registrant Newcomer of the Year?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite overwhelming and definitely absolutely delighted. Found out on my birthday as well, so always a nice surprise and early birthday present. But it essentially provided a huge amount of reassurance and sort of concretizing everything that I've achieved so far as well. So yeah, for me, it was definitely recognizing what I've done and I think especially how much others have helped me achieve all of that as well. So it's been, yeah, hugely beneficial and grateful.
Excellent and very well deserved, I'll say as well. So obviously we know it's been a very challenging year for everyone, but obviously you've managed to thrive this year, obviously reflected in this award, so which obviously recognises achievements throughout your whole career, but particularly within the last 12 months. So apart from this award, what are you, as we would say, of course, what are you most proud of achieving in this last year?
So I think a massive one for me is that with everything that's gone on so far, we haven't let out or let anything go by or slip through in terms of what we'd set out as ambitions prior to any of last year and or the years and the COVID-19 stuff so far. But yeah, but if anything, we've accelerated a number of things in an environment which has been pretty challenging, constantly changing. So probably most proud of that and the fact that no one's really given up, and if anything it's reinforced people's ambition to actually make tangible and take action and really drive change. So yeah, that's what I'd say I'm most proud of for this year.
Fantastic. Just on an added note there, are you finding that obviously COP26 is coming up in November, so you're finding that sort of focusing people's minds towards sort of reaching net zero and carbon action in general?
Yeah, I think it's certainly helping raise awareness around, the need to take action now, and it's not waiting for tomorrow. Whilst we don't have all of the answers, there's a significant amount that can be done. I think it's also instigating a lot of questions around understanding and providing more clarity around actually, okay, everyone wants to reach net zero or to help and play their part, but it's unpicking what is it that people can do and within their roles, both at home and in their professional lives. So yeah, that's been a massive instigator, I think, in really fueling people to understand, okay, how can I play my part? So yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, I think it's a really big year for climate action, isn't it? So it's great to have that sort of platform, I think, to drive momentum forward. So if I just move on to the next question, which is more about sort of your background, I guess. When did you first become interested in environmental issues, and sort of when was the moment where you thought, this is what I want to do, that I want to go into a career in the environment?
Yeah, so it might be a little bit of a cheesy answer. I've always been quite in tune with the fact that I knew I wanted to make a change. I've never really known exactly how, but I did know I wanted to make a positive change on the biggest scale possible. And from that, trying to figure out what I was going to do. So I started off in med school, actually figured that wasn't for me. I was going to make a difference in a different way. And then very much orientated more myself towards biology and ecology side of things. And that's, yeah, pretty much where it sort of everything joined up and it made a lot more sense and clarity for me around, okay, this is where I can make the biggest change. And from there, never really looked back.
Excellent. So it's been sort of an inspiration for a while, and it's great to see that you're doing something you really love to do, which is always great, and you still love to do it as well. So
Yes.
that's fantastic. So sort of on that note, I guess, looking at your career so far, would you say you've benefited from mentoring and the support of your peers in terms of your professional development? And related to that, I guess, is what is the best piece of advice you would say you've received to sort of get you to where you are now?
Yeah, massively. I think a huge amount of what I've achieved has been a huge team effort, really. I couldn't do this all on my own. It's very much with the help of a huge amount of individuals over the whole career, even through my studies, etc. So definitely a big team effort. So mentoring, asking questions, just seeking clarity from different people in all sorts of different environments, not necessarily just always only in sustainability, but covering a whole array of professions and industries has been hugely beneficial for me from a personal development perspective around that. In terms of advice, I think my honest one is around there's no harm in asking the question. So whether that's seeking understanding around something you don't necessarily know, looking into wanting to try something different, or understanding actually, is it feasible to try something in this space? I suppose the worst answer you can get is no, it's not going to happen, or they can't help at that moment in time. So yes, it's don't be shy to ask the question. And that's definitely something. I'm quite an inquisitive person. For anyone who does know me, I do have enough to ask quite a few questions. But yeah, that'd be my best piece of advice. So yeah.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, that's great advice. I think, and just going on your point about sort of linking up with different disciplines and stuff. Obviously, that's something that as CEnv we really believe passionately in, because obviously we bring together all the different sectors from across the profession. So absolutely great bits of advice there. So if I just move on to the next question. So obviously you are a Chartered Environmentalist and you hold your CEnv registration via the Institute of Environmental Management Assessment. So what role would you say your professional registration and membership have had in shaping your career so far?
I suppose it's helped me so far. I think some of it potentially not always cognizant of it until afterwards, around really mapping out and shaping me in my career in terms of what I wanted to go down. Some of the webinars or events I've attended, or just the topics that were being promoted through the institution, for example, actually taking interest in something that might not necessarily come to my awareness otherwise, has been a great piece of it. The whole process as well of actually, we rarely take the time to recognize what we have achieved, and really taking that conscious effort of actually building and recognizing actually what have I enabled to do, whilst there's always more that we can do 100%. I think it was hugely valuable to actually pinpoint and identify actually how much I had achieved and how, and with the help of who, and I suppose it really helps formulate how you can continue to improve on that, and what would you continue or want to do more of, and encouraging around like secondment types of things. So I've done a commercial secondment, even though I've not necessarily got a commercial background, to really sort of provide me with a more rounded experience and background just and that. So it kind of opens your eyes in terms of ensuring that you have a balance in everything to progress your career to the best of your ability, or where you want to take it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I would absolutely agree with that in that it's sort of registration, and I think professional body membership is a way of sort of showcasing your expertise at the moment, but also with CPD and everything, sort of building it further. So it's sort of both things at once. So I would absolutely agree with that. So obviously in recent years, we've seen the environment and climate grow as a concern in the public consciousness. Obviously, we've already touched on COP26 as well, and sort of how that's driving momentum. So how would you say this sort of shift in public consciousness has affected your work as an environmental professional? Do you think there's more appreciation for what you do? Are more opportunities opening up?
Yeah, so I suppose it's a double-edged sword in some ways. Around there's a huge amount more recognition around actually the importance of it, moving it very much up on the agenda, but also moving sustainability out of just the environmental and social or sustainable sort of department, and actually making it a business wide and critical ownership of sustainability around an organizational level. But with that comes that it's a very popular topic at the moment, so there's a huge amount that's going on in terms of new skills, etc. But that also means, because it's relatively new, there's a little bit of uncertainty or lack of clarity at the moment around actually what is the next steps, what do we need to do, what do individuals need to do. So it's a great spur to be able to actually really put your mark in terms of helping shape and distill what it is we need to do in order to get to net zero and truly drive tangible change. So yeah, it's a learning curve for everyone. But it is really gratifying to be able to know that actually you are making, and you can see incremental but tangible differences happening in all sorts of aspects across the different industries. So it's great.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, like you say, it's just seeing that you're making that difference, and what you're doing today, and then what more you need to do as well. So linked to that, I guess, because obviously you work for quite a large consultancy at Costain. So do you think there's been more and more focus on environmental issues within your organisation of late?
Yeah, hugely. I mean, Costain have been really good, and maybe not great at always showcasing it, but actually have done a huge amount over quite a number of years around tackling climate change emissions or carbon emissions, and even the wider sustainability topics. It isn't a knee-jerk reaction. What it has enabled to do is provide a platform, or even from the industry's perspective, of showcasing on a more wider level, actually, this is what we've done, this is what we can achieve, but also accelerate the pace of change. Actually, individuals in all sorts of disciplines really demanding that actually we need to do this quicker, that it's not acceptable to, really eager to help accelerate and truly change the industry to make net zero and sustainability the default and the mainstream thing, rather than the innovative activity that we could undertake, or what had previously been something that was done but not really across the board as the standard. So yeah, I think it's definitely yielded a huge amount of attention, but also momentum around it to bring people together to understand, rather than individual activities joining up all of the dots to make a far more impactful, more sustained change.
Absolutely. I think, do you think that there's more sort of collaboration between organizations as well, in terms of willingness to share good practice about what they're doing? And because obviously that's sort of, I guess, the only way that, there's going to be change across the board and everything. So do you see that there is sort of a move to more, like, instead of collaboration, instead of competition, I suppose is one way of looking at it?
Yeah, I think in fairness, there was already a huge amount of collaboration on quite a number of topics. So I do think that the industry is accelerated, or it's increased the amount of collaboration in this field. But however, there has been a lot of collaboration even prior to climate change being, or as much of a topic or a big topic as it is. I think what's really starting to happen now is actually everyone's making commitments, which is great, but there is very much a call that is getting louder and louder around making commitments great, and it's a great intention, but the key bit is following through on the intention. And we're seeing more and more of, actually, as this is propelling and accelerating, that it's translating that intent into tangible action that we're seeing more of. So that's actually where I think it's pushing the industry, is talking about it is great. It's great to raise the awareness, the commitments are there, but that next step is very much needed, and it is being taken. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where the good practice comes in, isn't it? Because I think there's lots of organizations out there that want to do the right thing, but they're not sure exactly what to do, or they've got some questions in certain areas, and if other organizations can provide sort of inspiration of what they've done, that can only benefit on it. So that's absolutely.
The reinventing the wheel is definitely something that industries as a whole and everyone's moving away from. The appreciation of, actually, if someone knows the answer already, very much picking from that and enhancing on that rather than starting from scratch. So yes, hugely.
Brilliant. So if I just move on to sort of another area, I guess, but still staying within the environmental profession, but sort of a different aspect of it. So we know that the environmental profession needs to be more diverse and inclusive. Currently, it performs quite poorly when it comes to sort of those areas. So we've obviously seen the establishment of programs like the Diverse Sustainability Initiative, which CEnv is involved with. Speaking from your sort of experience, are there any good practices you've seen in your career that have helped to increase diversity and inclusion?
I think one of the biggest ones, and I think it links to your point before, is actually communication about it. So actually, a lot of things, it can be a case of actually pointing out the obvious, or sometimes the elephants in the room, and in a way that's diplomatic, but actually voicing whether it's concerns, challenges, or opportunities to be more diverse or to be more inclusive, but that potentially people who've been in that industry or that have been on that project for a while, you sort of become a little bit blinkered to it, whereas a fresh pair of eyes. So I think the key bit for me is communication, or conveying the message of where there is an opportunity to increase diversity and accelerate the amount of diversity and inclusion across all sorts of careers and across every career. So for me, that's fundamental. Is a specific target is great, but actually having the awareness and raising the point of where there is opportunity to do that, because I don't think it's a one size fits all. So there isn't one sole solution. However, the principles behind it are the same and applicable across all industries, all types of organizations. So yeah, for me, communication is fundamental in increasing that and being open about it. So transparent about actually no one's perfect, recognizing where you're potentially excelling at, also where potentially your shortfalls are, or where are the areas of opportunity to improve and enhance. And I think that's a key one. And it's definitely something we've seen change over certainly my career, in terms of acknowledging where the greatest areas of improvement are needed and doing something tangibly, doing something about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's the first step, isn't it, to admit where there's a problem, and then it's sort of the action that's required. So absolutely. So that's great.
Sorry, just to add on that, but I think there's also a huge amount of value in, whilst there's always areas we can improve, but also recognizing where we are doing really well. So I think communicating on definitely the transparency of where we could do better, but also where we are really doing and excelling and doing really well, so that you've got that balance and it's showing the whole picture, because to not have a biased view of how we're going about it. Definitely not perfect, but certainly doing some great stuff as well.
Absolutely, yeah, that's really important. So just I've got a final question here. So obviously, as an award-winning professional, where do you go from here? Where do you see your sort of key aims and ambitions going forward?
Well, my key aims and ambitions haven't really changed. I'm still eager to definitely continue to make and help drive and be part. I'm very much conscious that this is a huge team effort to get there, of making the biggest change on the greatest scale possible. So continuing to explore that. And personally, a personal interest of mine at the moment is around helping make accessible and translate getting and achieving net zero through business models. So what type of incentives, and really making circular economy a reality, in terms of, okay, how do we then bring that to life through our industry? So yeah, that's a personal interest of mine that I'm looking forward to taking forward in the next few years.
Excellent. Well, sounds like you've got some great work coming up. Obviously, yeah, thank you for everything you're doing at the moment, and yeah, it's exciting going forward. So I think that all that leaves me to say is obviously thank you again for giving your time, and thanks also to everyone who submitted questions and helped make the 2021 CEnv Awards so successful. So thanks again, Lara, and all the best for the rest of 2021.
Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.